The first thing everyone noticed was the silence, the kind that presses against your ears so hard it almost hurts. A busy roadside diner, usually full of clattering plates, laughter, and the low hum of traffic outside, froze in a single moment when a small, tired voice asked a question that carried far more weight than it should have. The question wasn't loud or dramatic or angry. It was soft, careful, and full of fear. It was the kind of question that comes from someone who already expects the answer to be no, and in that instant, with a group of leather-clad bikers sitting in the corner booth, the entire room seemed to hold its breath. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet moments that change lives forever, take a second right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this matter because they remind us who we can be when we choose compassion. The diner sat just off a long highway, the kind of place truckers stopped at dawn, and families wandered into by accident. Its floors were worn smooth by decades of boots and shoes, and the smell of fried food clung to the walls like a memory that refused to fade. On that particular evening, rain streaked down the windows, blurring the neon sign outside and turning the world beyond the glass into a wash of gray. Inside, most customers kept their heads down, eating quickly, eager to get back on the road. But in the corner booth, a biker group had settled in, unmistakable in their heavy jackets, weathered faces, and quiet, commanding presence. They didn't laugh loudly or cause trouble. They simply existed, and that was enough to make some people nervous. At the center of the story was a young waitress named Emily, though no one else in the diner knew her name. She was in her early 20s, with tired eyes that had learned too quickly how to hide worry behind a polite smile. Her uniform was clean but worn thin, and her movements carried the stiffness of someone who hadn't slept enough in a very long time. Every shift felt like a careful balancing act between doing her job well and keeping her emotions from spilling over. Bills waited at home. A small apartment with peeling paint waited for her. And most importantly, her 6-year-old daughter waited, often hungry, always hopeful. Emily worked double shifts whenever she could, picking up extra hours when other servers called out sick or quit without notice. She rarely complained. Complaining didn't put food on the table. That night had already been hard. Tips were light, the diner was short-staffed, and her manager was in a bad mood, snapping over small mistakes. Still, Emily moved from table to table, refilling coffee, clearing plates, and offering smiles she barely felt. The bikers had ordered big meals, the kind that came with extra sides and heavy plates. Emily had been nervous approaching their table at first, not because they were rude, but because their presence was intense. One of them stood out immediately. He was broad-shouldered, with a graying beard and eyes that seemed to miss nothing. His jacket bore patches that hinted at a long history on the road. He didn't stare, didn't leer, didn't raise his voice. He simply watched the room with a calm, steady awareness. Other bikers deferred to him without words, a sign of quiet leadership. As the meal went on, Emily noticed the leftovers piling up. Fries untouched, half a sandwich, pieces of chicken barely eaten. She glanced at the plates more than once, her throat tightening each time. At home, her daughter had eaten toast that morning and nothing else. Emily had promised she would bring something back if she could, but promises felt fragile when money was tight and rules were strict. The diner had a policy against taking food, even leftovers. Breaking it could mean losing her job. Losing her job could mean losing everything. When it came time to clear the table, Emily's hands trembled slightly as she stacked plates. She tried to look professional, tried to keep her voice steady when she spoke, but her heart was pounding so loud she was sure someone could hear it. The words rose up from somewhere deep inside her, pushed forward by desperation and love. She didn't plan the question. It escaped before fear could stop it. She asked if she could take the leftovers for her daughter. The diner went quiet in a way that felt unreal. Forks paused mid-air. A man at the counter stopped chewing. Even the rain outside seemed to soften. Emily immediately wished she could take the words back. Her face burned with shame, and she braced herself for laughter, anger, or worse. She expected to be reported to the manager. She expected humiliation. She expected the answer she had heard too many times before. The biker she had noticed earlier looked at her for a long moment. His expression didn't harden. It didn't soften either. It was thoughtful, measured, as if he was weighing something far bigger than a box of leftovers. Around him, the other bikers shifted slightly, watching him, waiting. Emily's chest felt tight. She stared at the floor, already preparing herself to apologize. What happened next changed the atmosphere of the diner entirely. The biker slowly pushed his plate forward, then reached out and gathered the others, pulling them closer together instead of letting Emily clear them away. His movement was deliberate, calm. He didn't raise his voice or make a show of it. He simply acted. One by one, the other bikers followed his lead, stacking food neatly, adjusting containers, making sure nothing spilled. Someone asked the waitress for a to-go box. Not just one, but several. The sound of plastic lids snapping shut echoed through the silent room. Emily looked up, confused, tears blurring her vision. No one laughed. No one complained. The biker met her eyes, and for the first time, she saw something there she hadn't expected, understanding, the kind that comes from having known hunger, loss, and long roads with no clear end. He gestured gently toward the boxes, as if this was the most normal thing in the world. But he didn't stop there. He signaled her to wait, then reached into his jacket and pulled out a worn wallet. He placed cash on the table, far more than the cost of the meal. He added more from his pocket, and then the others did the same, quietly, without counting or boasting. The pile grew quickly. Tips like that didn't happen here. Not ever. Emily's hands shook as she picked up the boxes, her mind struggling to catch up with what was happening. The biker didn't speak loudly, but his presence carried. He made it clear, without drama, that kindness wasn't charity, and dignity wasn't optional. The room seemed to exhale. Someone near the window wiped their eyes. A trucker at the counter nodded slowly, as if committing the moment to memory. The manager, who had been watching from the back, said nothing. Emily retreated to the kitchen for a moment, pressing the boxes to her chest, tears finally spilling over. She cried not because she was embarrassed, but because the weight she had been carrying alone had, for just a second, been lifted. She thought of her daughter's face lighting up at the sight of real food. She thought of a warm meal shared at their small table. She thought of the fact that maybe, just maybe, the world wasn't as cruel as it sometimes felt. When she returned to the floor, the bikers were getting ready to leave. They stood, tall and solid, and one by one they headed toward the door. The leader paused near Emily, nodding once, a simple acknowledgement that carried more meaning than words. Then they were gone, swallowed by the rain and the road beyond the neon sign. The diner slowly returned to life. Conversations resumed, though quieter now. Something had shifted. People tipped a little more. Smiles lingered longer. Emily finished her shift in a daze, her body tired but her heart strangely light. When she finally stepped out into the night, rain misting her face, she felt different. Not fixed, not saved, but seen. At home, her daughter ran to the door, eyes wide with excitement at the sight of the food. They ate together, laughing over fries and sharing stories from the day. For that night, hunger wasn't part of their world. Emily tucked her daughter into bed later, brushing hair from her forehead, feeling a deep, aching gratitude. Days turned into weeks, and the memory of that night stayed with Emily. It gave her strength on hard shifts. It reminded her that asking for help wasn't weakness. That compassion could come from unexpected places. The biker never returned to the diner, at least not while Emily worked there. But his impact lingered in small ways, in the way Emily treated others with more openness, in the way she volunteered to help new servers, in the way she believed, just a little more, in humanity. For the biker, the moment passed quietly, one of many miles on a long journey. But sometimes, the smallest stops matter the most. Sometimes, a single act of kindness echoes far beyond the walls of a diner, shaping lives in ways no one can fully measure. Just before we reach the end of this story, take a moment to comment below and share what this moment meant to you. Or if you've ever witnessed or experienced a kindness that changed everything. If this story touched your heart, If it reminded you that compassion still exists in a tired world, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel. Your engagement helps keep stories like this alive, and you never know whose life might be changed by hearing one more reminder that kindness still matters.